what happens is the medical profession works through fear and intimidation. It's kind of like being questioned by the police or a detective. You're just like, and I've had so many women sitting in front of me with tears in their eyes after our talk because they had both breasts taken off and they didn't have to, because before they knew it, they got a diagnosis. The next thing they know, they're on the table and they lost their breasts, and then they realize, well, maybe I didn't have to do that, and maybe so, yeah. So the point is, what cancer really is a tap on the shoulder by God. And it's just saying, the path you're on is shorter than you'd like. Make a right-hand turn here. And that's all it's saying. And there's nothing urgent. The only time it's urgent is when it's compromising a vital function. You can't breathe, you're severe pain and things like that. But usually you know about it before that. You don't just all of a sudden have that. And the beautiful thing about cancer, as opposed to all other conditions, is that it gets rid of all your negotiations. Anybody else when I used to work as general internal medicine, and I have someone come with a heart attack, they're going to negotiate. It's like poached eggs, right, or whatever it is that they're trying to negotiate. But with cancer, they go, okay, what should I do? Stand on my head over there till noon, and they'll do anything. So I love that. It's the great equalizer. It does that. And that's beautiful. And that's only because there's a lot of hype around it. Remember who started the American Cancer Society? There's a DVD out called Healing Cancer from the Inside Out. It gives you a really good Healing Cancer from the Inside Out. You can get it online. But anyway, it gives you a good overview of the cancer industry, which is really a major industry, right? And here's the thing. Cancer is a word, not a sentence. Okay? We take it as a sentence. And so what I like to do is, I know the power of words. I like to give it, like when my kids they used to come home and they were crying because somebody called them something, a name. I said, what if they called you banana? Would you be upset? Would you? No. Well, then you got to figure out, why does calling you stupid make you feel, or whatever it is they call you. So we got to realize the power of words. So the word cancer carries so much with it. When you hear that, they call it the C word. They've got all this stuff. Why? Because when you get diagnosed, they don't want you to think. They want your mind to go brrr, and whisk you into the medical industrial complex, which is going to spit you out $385,000 later. Okay, into a box. And that's it. You are this unknown, depending on what cancer it is. So call it something else. Let's turn it around. Call it rec neck. And it was not so bad, rec neck. Got some rec neck going on. I'm going to try to change that. Okay, that's cancer backwards. Or you can call it anything. But what I'd like to do now, so what I'm saying is that, so what you do is you go online and you find out that not that there's not enough information, there's too much. Which one is true? Which are true? So here's the thing about the truth. And I want you to hear this. We recognize the truth. We are the truth. Our very being is the truth. And when we hear it, it resonates. It feels good. When you were a little kid and you learned to count to 10, and then someone said, look, by the way, 1 + 1 is 2. You went, yeah. When we hear the truth, it feels good. We know it. We recognize it. If someone's waving their arms and you're scratching your head, it's probably not true. The problem is we have been taught and we've learned very well how to ignore our instincts. So that's what you need to rely on. You need to go in and you need to hear, does it make sense, what they're saying? Learn to hear things with your stomach. It's very interesting. Every chemical that's produced in the gastrointestinal system is also produced in the brain. They're neurochemicals. So when people say I had a gut feeling about that, it's a real thing. That's a real thing. Or I just, I just feel it in the pit of my stomach. A lot of women, when they find out that either their child's in trouble or their spouse is cheating, that's where they feel it in the stomach. So anyway, so there's a lot of that. Um, just as an aside, I noticed, when we say I, right? We point to our head. In Japan, they point to their heart. I is here. So we're in our minds. So what I'd like to do is take away the power of that word from that it has. Okay, and free you from that, because there's a lot of myths out there, and there are myth spinners. They like to keep these myths alive and going. So, I mean, there's the protein myth, which we'll talk about. Cancer myth. How about the myth of disease? It's a total myth. And here's the basic, and this is, if you could just get this, and if you can just get this, it's all you need. Okay? The medical model is that there are these entities. There are distinct entities, and they're called diseases. And you either catch them or you inherit them. Okay? Once they get in you, you've got to get rid of them. And you get rid of them, and the method you use is called a cure. Okay? And we believe this deep down to our souls. Now, we are the imperative, not the imperative, the fundamental precept, concept that we are given as kids and we grow up with is perhaps the greatest lie ever perpetrated upon the human race. And that is, health is impossible and disease is inevitable. We know that so thoroughly that we actually go out and buy insurance because we're planning to get sick. We're going to get sick. If you want health insurance, it's right there in that little bottle there. It's called green juice. That's health insurance. What we have is disease insurance. Right? And if you think you're buying life insurance, drink this stuff. You're buying death insurance. Okay, so we got to keep that in mind. The words are very, very important. Okay, so this concept that disease is inevitable. So we're planning on getting sick, and then so have you ever talked to someone about, and they look at the way you live your life, and they go, "Yeah, you're going to die of something anyway." It's an absurd thing. You're going to die of something anyway. Yeah, but we're not talking about that. If you live this lifestyle, guess what you get? Today you get to feel bliss, joy. You get to jump out of bed, not crawl out of bed. Things don't bother you as much. You're able to live life, because life is really learning to live. It takes about 50 years to figure it out. That's why the first 50 years are free. The second 50 you have to earn. So part of the first 50 are learning how to earn that second 50. But learning to live is similar to learning how to surf. If you're rigid on that board, you're going to wipe out. You cannot be rigid. You cannot know how it's going to turn out, because you know that old expression, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Right? So that's it. So you can't be rigid. You can't be sure of everything. You got to be totally open. And isn't that what it means to say, unless you become as little children, you cannot enter the kingdom? And not have no agenda. I don't know if there's a book called The Beginner's Mind. Did anybody ever read that by Suzuki? Okay, the beginner's mind is the mind without an agenda. It's the mind you have as a child, and you're looking at a butterfly or a spider, and you're just like, wow. You're saying no words. There's no words. What other conditions are no words? The one we all like is orgasm. No words. Talking. You remember before. I mean, you can remember just getting there and after it, but at that moment, you're gone. Okay, and that's the same thing the surfer gets. The minute he gets on that, he's gone. The skier, the dancer, the musician. So those are things that allow us to be present in the moment. So we're convinced that that there's this thing called disease. So let's examine what that means. I go to a doctor conventional. And let's change the word. People say traditional. Please do never call what I was trained in as traditional. The white coats are conventional. They're not traditional. Traditional is Chief Rolling Thunder, the Kahunas, Ayurvedic, Chinese. That's traditional medicine. Okay. The white coats are not traditional. Well, they use the word, they stole that word like they stole everything else. And if you look at the history of medicine, go back to Hippocrates. What do you think? You think Hippocrates was an MD? He was a naturopath. I mean, he was the truest naturopath there is. And he's considered the father of medicine. And he said, what he said is the exact opposite of what any conventional doctor will say today. What will the conventional doctor say? It doesn't matter what you eat. And he said, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. So what are we talking about here? So if you look at the whole history of medicine, you'll find out the allopaths, the MDs, are this small little wart on a beautiful healing, compassionate path. This little aberration. MDs are aberrant. So let's say you go to a conventional doctor, and on 3 separate occasions your blood pressure is elevated. So now you qualify for the diagnosis of hypertension. And believe me, have you ever seen someone come back from a doctor's office full, I got a diagnosis. It's like they got something good. I got a diagnosis. At least I know what's wrong. Okay. So the whole concept is wrong. The paradigm is a false paradigm. That's why it never works. And believe me, if doctors knew what they were doing, the hospitals would be empty. But they're standing room only. I'm trying to get into an ER. You know, if you're not having a heart attack, you get a long wait. So, anyway, so you get the diagnosis of hypertension. So what does that mean? So, well, to most of us, hypertension means I got a disease. It's this thing, and I got to get rid of it. So I'm going to take antihypertensives. Okay. Let's examine what really happened. And first, let's understand something. The imperative placed upon all biological entities by God is to regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. Regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. Okay? That's it. So you pull an apple from the tree this year, next year there's 3. Cut your finger, it heals. You mow the lawn, it goes back. Everybody's got to have nail clippers. Okay, so that's the nature of nature, is to regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. So when that's not happening, it's because there's something in the way. There's an impediment. It's the same reason, the only reason water is not rolling downhill is there's a rock in the way or some sort of dam. You remove that dam and it works. Because the law, it will continue to be. These laws of nature are non-negotiable and immutable. Immutable. They always exist. So, in any case, when you understand that, and you understand that our bodies are divine machines, and that's what they do is heal. How much healing were they doing? Well, no one knows for sure, but approximately 30 billion cells a day are being made new and being recycled, killed, and new ones. We don't know. But a child, maybe 60 billion. Someone with a growth in their body, maybe 60 million. Okay, so we're having a lot. So we're in a continual state of renewal. We have new skin every 6 weeks. We have new rods and cones in our retinas every 48 hours. We have new lining to our colons every 3 to 5 days. We have new livers every 6 months. So if you had a condition last year and you have it this year, it's because you're continuing to produce it. It's a good thing to know. It's really important to know. So it's not something that happened. Oh, I got this diagnosis. It's not something that happened. It's a happening, which is wonderful, which means you can intervene, modify it, make it a non-happening, change the happening. It's an empowering thing. It's very important to know. Okay? So, and by the way, there's nothing magical about diagnoses. The word diagnosis, separate, and gnosis, no. Separate, no, which means the name. You put a name on it. When they do a biopsy of the thing, what they're going to do a biopsy. We could do a PET. If you had a lump in your breast, we could do a PET scan, and if it lights up, that means you inject fluorodeoxyglucose, which is radioactive glucose. If it's picking it up at a high rate, it can't be anything else but cancer. So why you got a biopsy? Because they want to put a name. Oh, it's intraductal. It's ductal carcinoma. These are names. What does a name mean? A name is a description of what is. Adenocarcinoma. Oh, wow, I'm impressed. Adeno, gland, carcinoma. Oh, from the ectoderm. Okay, from that part of the embryo. It's cancer, as opposed to a sarcoma, which grows. It's just putting a name on it. So what if they called it I don't know, an heirloom tomato? You've got an heirloom tomato. So you should put this. But what I want you to understand with this name is it means nothing. It doesn't tell you how it got there, nor how to get rid of it. So what value is it? What's the value? Is that it separates a profession, because the big deal, if you do what I do, and that is you tell someone you have X, you go to jail. Let's go practicing medicine without a license. Only guys with licenses can say you can diagnose. It means we can name it. Okay? It's just a sort, it's called like someone goes to Donna for some lifestyle coaching. If she names a disease and they happen to be a mole, she's in trouble. So yeah. She could always say, what most doctors call this is, and then she saved herself.
Just a group of symptoms.
Yeah, right. So, but anyway, so there's nothing magic about a diagnosis. In fact, it's better not to get one. Because remember, words have power. Words have power. They give things existence.